That's
Yeah, it hasn't been too cold for us at least. It's hovering around 0, -1. I know for you guys that might be kind of crazy, but
oh no,
No, we are from Poland, Romania.
oh,
Okay.
okay. I thought you guys were in Barcelona.
I am. I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
from
remember
Poland.
in
Yeah.
my country it used to be like -28, and we used to go to school, so that was fine.
Yeah, that's the same here. So
Okay.
yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
I remember that
-25 here.
actually was shut only because the radiators freezed during the night. So yeah,
Holy smokes. That's crazy.
I miss snow. I miss snow a lot.
No, but in UK, 5 centimeters of snow and they don't go to school. Yeah, airports
Yeah.
closed, freeze doesn't work. So
They got so alarmed here, like, okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's -30 here.
Holy.
Yeah,
Wow.
Calgary, man.
it's dry. It's a desert now.
It used to be.
Yeah, we're
in my country.
we're on two different sides of the continent. John and Tim and I.
okay. Oh, wow.
John's out in Calgary, so on the west.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got some people joining. That's good. But when the heat wave came to UK, like this summer, which was like 40 degrees or something like this, yeah. The guys didn't know what was happening. Like the roads were melting,
Alex had his graduation ceremony, and it was
40 degrees in the gown, and all of this. Oh wow,
That'd be awful. Yeah.
Yeah, and my parents as well, when they came, and they were stuck for 3 days, I think, in UK, and that they just couldn't fly out to Poland, which was a little bit crazy at that time.
they not used to extremes.
But I have no idea what's the reason. No, because even the bridges were melting because of the temperature. And why is that? Why it is only over there? I have no idea really. Why, for example, Canada can exist in -30 and +30. Yeah. So.
I mean, now the weather is kind of mild, and we got like 13 degrees or something like that, which is kind of all right. Something.
Yeah.
And rain, obviously.
So you guys all graduated?
Yeah.
We did, yes.
We did last
Congrats.
this summer. Thank you.
Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
Have you been at the same uni?
Pardon?
Have you been at the same uni?
Yes, we went to
Carleton's architecture program together.
Yeah.
That's how we met. Yeah.
Okay. But now I know, Bennett, you and Tim, you got practice together, yeah? If I'm not wrong?
We do. We're running a render firm of sorts. So we're working with a few firms in Ottawa, Ontario, and we're essentially doing the visualization for a few architecture firms, which is really cool.
Okay.
It's a good little interim, I think, between undergrad and figuring out what the future of our academia holds, and yeah.
Which programs are you guys using?
Go ahead, Bennett.
So we kind of been flipping between. We started using Enscape and Photoshop, and currently we are in the process of switching to 3ds Max and Corona Render, if you've heard of that.
Well, did you guys ever had a question between 3D Max and Blender?
No, but that is something that we are debating, exploring. I've seen results from Blender that are absolutely just insane and almost like unreplicable, like between like other programs. So that is like something that we're kind of playing with the idea. Have you used Blender and 3ds Max?
I seen a guy who used 3D Max, and it was too complicated. I've seen the power of Blender also from a friend, and what I thought was, SketchUp and Blender is coming together, like their relationship is getting better. So my idea is to use SketchUp to model the buildings and like everything that needs precision, but then topography, it's to go for Blender and all those realistic materials. So I'm thinking of a mix up between SketchUp and Blender.
Yeah. So that's actually semi what we have been doing because I agree. I don't think 3ds Max is particularly um, straightforward when it comes to modeling architecture. So we've been using SketchUp, modeling in SketchUp, and luckily the import between SketchUp and 3ds Max is really, really, really good. So we've been modeling in SketchUp, importing it into 3ds Max pretty much to use Corona Render just like that. It would be great if they made Corona Render for SketchUp. Unfortunately, it's only for, I think, 3ds Max and maybe Revit currently, but yeah.
Yeah.
Blender, though, is quite ridiculous in the quality that
The
you can achieve.
thing that is blowing me with Blender is it just keeps growing because it's an open source.
Yeah.
So it's all like Blender was hard for me to use, but then I've seen a plugin and a guy just made the Blender navigation tools like SketchUp. So it's like that thing, that improvement it gets on time. I believe it's gonna like probably go over other
Yeah.
programs.
I would also look, at Enscape and V-Ray because now they are connected. Yeah, Chaos Group bought Enscape.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, and changes now because they published the new software and it's becoming crazy, honestly, because they are combined straight away, so that you can take the materials from V-Ray to Enscape. So you need
yeah.
powerful equipment, probably, but I
But
think it's
isn't the problem with Enscape is you are bound to the program to the program that it uses. So it's like I want to use Enscape, but I'm stuck with what the SketchUp gives me as a landscape or
Yeah.
so. So I've always used Enscape as a practical and fast render engine, not as like the final result engine.
Mhm. I think
That's the same way that we've been approaching it as well. That's actually one of the main causes for our switch was that the vegetation assets, like especially in Enscape, really aren't that great, and they almost look kind of cartoony. I'm not sure if you've seen like the Corona Render. It's actually owned by Chaos as well, so it's
Wow.
it's almost like V-Ray, but I think it's catered more towards architecture than V-Ray is.
Oh.
And yeah, the vegetation and the landscapes that you can create in that are very, very, very cool. Way more realistic than what you can produce in Enscape.
I will look into that. I want to ask the big question. Have you guys ever used the AI as a render engine?
We played around
Midjourney?
we had graduated before I think that was
Okay.
mainstream, and but we have played around with within the past couple months. I saw on non-architecture, I think there was I think it was a video game landscape competition or something like that, and I saw like AI images from that which were ridiculous. But that is, yeah, it's crazy. Like it's getting to the point now where you can almost write exactly what you want and produce a finalized image. Like yeah, it's really crazy the quality that you can get from it now. I know
There are some
John.
competition guys now here. Yeah.
Yes,
That's why
I
they
know.
can participate.
Yeah.
And you, John? How are you?
Good. Yeah, no, I'm currently working as a designer. I can't really confirm it yet, but like, I might.
Almost.
Interiors. So like a lot
Okay.
of high-end interiors and mostly residential. So that's all I do right now. Make drawings.
Perfect. But you focus on images or generally also designs and.
Yeah, plans, images, the whole package for all construction renovations.
Mm-hmm.
I do a little bit more of the
Okay.
actual practical drawing stuff.
So the next stage after the university, I think, for all of us. So
Yeah. Yeah, you can't get away from it unless you just go to renders.
yeah.
Uh,
No, guys, but I think with the renderings as well, it's good money, no matter what.
mhm,
It might be good money at the end, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know how it is with in Canada in terms of payments, but in Europe it's not funny anymore.
Oh, really?
In terms of salaries, yeah. So
You guys
No,
moved to Europe?
we found the same thing. It is a very lucrative business for sure.
true.
Uh,
I recently saw some rankings that architecture was announced as the most difficult course out of all. It beat civil engineering, aerospace engineering, bioengineering, and things like this. The
Wow.
next four places were like this, yeah, and architecture
And
was
then you're
at the top.
poorly paid,
Yeah.
sadly. It's kind of the reality portion.
Okay, guys, would you mind if we started? We'll give
Yeah.
small introductions, yeah, and we will start going on. Irina?
Yes, so welcome everyone on our third NonA talk, which is the reward cycle into the wild cycle. And what can I say? It's all about nature, and the main idea is bringing back the nature into the concrete jungles, into the cities, into the developments that were taking out the space from the nature away. And through this, let's say, imaginary exercise, we got some really nice results. And thank you guys for our invitation to discuss on that. And let's hope we'll have some really nice insights and outcomes, and you will enjoy. So yeah, Alex.
And just what we can talk about today, you guys know more or less. You received this in the email, but for the rest, first of all, we want to hear about your competition entry and what was the process. But I'm not, let's say, I'm interested, of course, but I would like to ask about the elements that you studied, that you researched, because I know from what was written and from what I saw in the image itself, there are many different elements that you covered. Honestly, I was thinking that you explored whole city and put it into one drawing, and that's something amazing to look at. But this will go further, and of course there is this a little sometimes cliche topic, but very important, as we all know, about the nature and the ideas that you put into the image itself of how to renature Rome, which is very difficult place, I think, because over there we base our kind of feelings and imaginations on the ruins, for example, and these overgrown surroundings that are happening all around the city.
Yeah,
So hope
I would
to
like to
hear.
ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, guys, Rome is already a city with a lot of layers, with millennial layers, I'd say, and you had to add more layers on that. So sorry, Alex, for interrupting.
No, I think that's the brief. We repeat a little bit the brief that you got, and now we would like to hear a little bit from you. Guys, if you just could say about yourself, a few sentences. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do? And that'd be wonderful.
Sure.
Jonathan, would you like to start?
Yeah. So I'll just sum it up. We all graduated from Carleton University's architecture program. That's how we all met as well. And I'm currently located in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm in -30 weather right now.
Thank you. Tim?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Tim Schmidt. I grew up in rural Ontario on the Bruce Peninsula, for any of those who know where that is. And then I did my undergrad along with these two at Carleton. So we graduated this year. And then I'm planning to work on this Build House program with Bennett until next summer, when I plan to travel Europe for a couple months and then hopefully pick a job there, because I'm lucky enough to have a German citizenship. So I plan to use that. Yeah, I am struggling with internet. I'm only hearing about half of the audio, so I might not be able to contribute that much, but I'll try to butt in when I can. But yeah, off to you, Bennett.
Speak whenever you want. I think that will be the best. So you're planning to visit Rome as well? On the way? I think, Tim, are you planning to visit Rome on the way?
Sorry, I can't hear anything right now.
Okay, so we'll move further. Bennett?
Yeah, my name's Bennett Harvey, and I grew up in Ottawa, went to Carleton University in the Israeli School of Architecture in the design stream. And yeah, like Tim said, I'm just working on this visualization firm with Tim for the time being, and just kind of figuring out where I want to go in terms of future of my education and that. Yeah.
Lovely, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think I would start from the question. So everything basically started at the university. Yeah, I understand in terms of the competition entry. You met each other at school, and how it started. How did you came up with an idea to participate together?
Yeah, well, so Tim and I, we've actually kind of been studio partners for a long time. I think maybe the last 2 years of our school, we would, be partners on projects, and we actually did a competition through our studio in our school, which was, I believe it was called Bauhaus of 2021, and it was an architectural project. And the idea of that was to essentially, reimagine what the Bauhaus would look like if it was built in 2021. And it was just, playing off of the idea, a lot of the social aspects and political aspects that were coinciding with the original Bauhaus being built in 1919. Like, it was kind of saying, all of these political aspects are somewhat in a way happening again now. And so what would a Bauhaus look like? And so Tim and I did that project, or that competition rather, through school. And then that kind of got our competition, I guess, itch, so to speak, going. And after that, we just started looking. We found non-architecture, and we loved the idea of just the simplicity of the projects. And a lot of these projects are ideas projects, so to speak. And personally, I love doing projects like that. It's very refreshing, especially after a studio where you need to have details, you need to have everything figured out. It's really nice to just kind of sometimes be able to do a competition like this, where it is an ideas competition. And so that's where we started, and we've been friends with John since the start of university as well. So all of us kind of just decided to go for it, and yeah.
Okay, that's a good story, I think. So you keep in touch, yeah, all the time now. I mean, Ben and the team, I know, but with Jonathan as well.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have a group chat all the time.
Do you think maybe of future collaborations? Let's say your offices or internal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've actually been looking at a competition. We actually just submitted a competition actually through it was previously Bee Breeders. I know they rebranded I think as Buildner, but just another competition website. So we are still doing competitions on and off. It's it's really nice to just be able to exercise your brain in that way through competitions. It kind of it exercises it in a way that studio doesn't, I find. So
Was this one your first competition, or we did something before?
this would have been our second competition. So I think actually I'm not sure, John, if you were part of the competition with the Bauhaus.
No, we didn't do Bauhaus. We were in Lisbon.
Yeah. Yeah, so for Tim and I, it would have been our second competition.
Okay. And so how do you treat this competition? As a kind of fun, or fun, I know, outside of the projects, outside the job or school, or rather just a step in the educational process?
I would say in terms of Tim and I, a little bit of both. You know, I like thoroughly enjoy designing, and so we actually did it over the summer when we weren't in school. And so it was really nice to be, working at firms where you're doing very logical projects, and and then just kind of having this on the side and being able to like it was a fun project. Like we did kind of treat it fun, but we did take it seriously in terms of like the research that we did and stuff like that. It was nice to almost have that studio atmosphere again. So
You, Jonathan?
Yeah, no, same. It's like it's just let the imaginary like elements of like architecture like just really expand and explore compared to like what I would do normally in like just drawing details and plans and furniture design.
For 3 weeks, yes, straight.
Yeah, so it's a lot more freeing, and that's just really the best part about competitions actually, because you don't really have a constraint. Like you don't have a budget, you don't have any client opposition.
Restrictions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, restrictions. You just have your teammates if you're working with a team, and yeah, but if you work well together, then there's no problems ever. So it's just who can get their idea out better.
Okay.
Did you decide to choose specifically this competition to go?
For this competition, yeah, I think we were all we're all on the same idea for it. Like we wanted to get something out that was very minimal on the ground floor surface, but expanded really high into Rome to like, create like a nice points in the city.
yeah, we this is kind of going into the research that we did, but at the time we were also learning a lot about like Rachel Carson and just like major movements within like environmentalism and such over the years. And so we were pretty excited to do like a project about nature. It was kind of like perfect because it just kind of coincided with everything that we were learning in our education, and worked out really
So it
well.
was like a consolidation, yeah, of everything, yeah, of what you learned before.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like the three of us are we all like really have like a good outdoor kind of nature passion, like from all our backgrounds. Like Tim living out in rural Ontario, Ben is a very big outdoors person.
Yeah.
I just like skiing a lot, so I like going out there into the mountains.
No, that's wonderful that you connect this passion or hobby, or you live in Canada, guys. So it's
So
like
nature actually inspired you.
Yeah, the last almost nature.
Yeah.
It's
like,
slowly changing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Guys, so what do you think about sharing your image? And if we could talk about this?
Yeah, do you guys have it, or would you like us to share it?
If you don't mind, could you share, because then you can point at something, or and that might be easier while describing, for example.
So yeah, it might be easier for you to.
I'll just grab it quickly.
Let us know if you can share the screen. Just in case I will prepare to.
All right, awesome.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure. Let me just
At the bottom of the screen, you should have it.
Yeah.
Yep, I got it. Awesome. let me know if you guys can see this all right.
I think we all need to click on this. I see.
Stream, yeah. Yeah, perfect.
And
So-
when I change the image, can you guys see the second image
Yeah,
now?
it works very well.
As well.
Awesome. Perfect.
Really nice, really nice.
So guys, just before you start describing, I love to ask a question about it a little bit, and so I see, as I said at the beginning, I see in this image and from the description as well that I will repeat myself, but I see a lot of research, I think. And in the description, you just place these 5 different kind of elements that were highlighted. This were, for example, wooden towers, which reflect on the Roman antiquity. And then we get seed dispersion mechanism. You describe it, which is this relation to nature and how it can be boosted, and others. You will say it in a better way, but. What I would love to know is basically, first of all, how you did all of this research, how you get into this, and then how you deduce this and how you combine this knowledge into kind of one specific, let's say, bullet points, basically these 5 elements of your design, which later, was envisioned into the graphic itself.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, in a sense, it's in the title, Renature Rome, but just through our research into Rachel Carson and other environmental aspects, we kind of have learned this idea that nature, so to speak, what nature actually is, no longer exists, and so right away we knew that we wanted, instead of, let's say, a community center or a singular building that would encapsulate it, like right away we knew that we wanted to do something modular and spread out. And we actually went through a couple different ideas before finalizing on seed pods. The first one was we were doing research into bees, funny enough, and just how they aid in pollination and stuff like that. And so our original idea was to have this kind of, I guess, beehive kind of modular building that would stimulate the production of beehives in Rome and stuff like that. And we decided not to go with that because of allergies. Actually, we were thinking about it and we were like, this might not be a good idea to have something that is known like allergen spread out around Rome. And another idea we had was to, instead of these seed pods, so to speak, we had these like pollen producing pods that would be carried around, and so the idea was that it would stimulate growth of select vegetation throughout Rome. And again, decided not to go with that just because of allergies. And so, and I think all 3 of us are in the same vein where we love the combination of the concrete jungle, so to speak, with like this overgrown atmosphere and stuff like that is something that all of us are really into. And so we decided to go with seed pods. And most of the research actually came from our education through university, just in terms of Brunelleschi, the crane, which we talk about a little bit in the description, but the seed pod crane being inspired by his lift on the Duomo in Florence. Just a lot of the research that we actually did was through our university and kind of incorporated in our education, so to speak. We did some research outside in terms of just structural elements and how these things would come together. We also did a lot of research just on Rome, and because I don't believe that any of us have been to Rome. I might be wrong. I don't think Tim has, but we did a lot of research just to figure out, would it be possible to actually insert these structures as a modular system into Rome. And you can see on the next page, one of the ways that we decided to do that was we did realize that there is a lot of like any major city, you know, there's a lot of alleyways, and so we were thinking like this would be really cool to insert into those spaces and still allow, you know, through traffic underneath. And so a lot of the design decisions were based around, I guess, the built fabric of Rome, as well as the just the education that we had during that year, just into environmentalism and, you know, that kind of thing.
I'm also back. I can finally hear everybody. So I'm not sure what we've discussed so far, but I can be involved again.
Fantastic.
Good to have you with us.
That's great.
No, okay, thank you, guys. And I think, and I was actually a little bit surprised, but of course I might have expected that you haven't been in Rome, but it seems like you've been, honestly. Like you get the idea, you get the feelings that are over there. And first of all, I think the color, you know, even the color itself shows, it's a little bit of Romey color, if I might call it. It's always, you know, sunny and warm over there. That's sometimes too hot, but this is what is expressed more or less, and I think that's also kind of the reason. Not only the color, the vibe that you express in the drawing is kind of fascinating in this. Jonathan, would you add? Sorry, Irina.
Oh, sorry. It brings me a feeling of a fresco sometimes, to be fair. So it might be have as an inspiration as well.
Sorry, it brings you
Feeling of fresco.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe in a little bit. I mean, I know. Yeah, we haven't been to Rome, but like Rome and Italy is just so ingrained into, you know, the history of architecture and especially our education. It's just like it almost. It was easy for us to you know, imagine the vibe of it, because you know, we've almost spent 4 years learning, so to speak, about the built fabric of Rome, and, you know, its history in terms of just architectural, like, yeah, it's just very ingrained in that. So it was much easier.
So go ahead.
Sorry.
I spent a summer in Tuscany with my family, and it was one of the hottest summers of my life. Like, just that dry heat is definitely something I think that we were trying to sort of capture especially with the other view over the city. It's like it almost reminds me of those like Tuscan hills where you can just see the mirage of heat rising from the landscape, especially in summer. Yeah. So, but I haven't seen Rome.
But I think, guys, it was, I think, really nice exercise for you to, you know, imagine completely from zero, yeah. Except of the theory that you got, this architecture theory, but still, most of it was imagined, yeah, based on the ruins that are over there. And I think that's also interesting in terms of your approach. And it shows that, you know, sometimes you don't need to know the place to design, in this case, the abstract idea that may actually help in terms of renaturing Rome. So that's wonderful to see. Jonathan, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, and we kind of just like in our design, we started off with like our picture represents like a brand new tower, but we also had the idea that it would over time get overpopulated and grow over with greenery and animals or plants and insects and bugs, and that would just populate the whole building. So it would really become like one with nature and like give back to nature versus trying to stay clean and pristine all the time. And that was like one big part where like we're like, okay, we can re-nature everything around, but we can also re-nature vertically as well. So that was another element that we had in our idea for it.
No, then that's great. And how did you correlate, these different elements? This is what I'm interested in, because as you've mentioned, you get, for example, this wooden towers, yeah, and you get the seed dispersions, and then you get Brunelleschi lift system, yeah. Is there any relation, or these were coming up and then you were connecting them together? Or
Yeah, we started with the Brunelleschi crane. We knew that so we knew the elements that we needed off the program, so to speak, and once we had that, we kind of started looking for what the built form of that would look like, and the first thing we decided to tackle was the crane. And once we had this the Brunelleschi inspired crane, everything else we kind of fell into place around that. And certain things we tried to match just in terms of a visualization sense as much as we could. The balloons obviously were like a little bit harder just because you can't have wooden balloons. And so we tried to match that though just through this idea of like the sunshades on the side of the towers. And but the crane system was, I guess, the key to everything, so to speak.
So history.
I think it was a really nice way to showcase everything you've learned about that, and the way that you've respected the context so much, and everything already existed. It's great.
Mm-hmm. How you translated basically history, the written words, into new, modern, not as a style, but modern, new thing structure, yeah? And that's what it is about, especially in Rome. What I was highlighting, that it's about this imagination with the ruins, yeah, that we imagine this city in most cases, in most of the locations.
And wood as well. Like the reason we chose to go with that, over something hyper modern like steel or something like that, it just has to speak with that as well. Like Rome is a city of antiquity, and so we just we decided to choose a material that spoke to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was very important for us to take this almost. Oh, sorry, I don't know when my audio is coming in or not here. It was important for us to take this antiquity, the nomenclature of the wood and the scaffolding, which is what the PEGMAT name means, and then just make the program be the contemporary part, because we didn't really want to do sort of what the ROM does, where it takes this really contemporary intervention that completely overrides what Rome has. And the last thing you should be doing in a Roman intervention, in our opinion, was to apply this contemporary facade over what is already quite incredible.
No, that's a really good and beautiful point. And guys, what about the public? How did you consider the public engagement into your designs?
Yeah. So when I was in Siena, I learned that these Roman cities have these crazy communal factions almost within their city. Siena is kind of like an extreme example with the horse race that they do. But this idea of community identity, which every city does have, that's something we wanted to foster. So the idea that each of these communities would have a tower and could use it and grow it and manipulate it as they want over time, which is what Jonathan was speaking to. Some might become vertical gardens. Some might become just city sightseeing posts. The idea was that the community would create the identity of each tower. And then in more of a practical sense, we wanted the intervention to not take up too much of the actual city, because Rome is already a very dense area. So the idea to have it be as transparent as possible. So in the alleys, you can walk right underneath it if you'd like, or you could climb up the structure. So it works well with just the urban density as well, to make it vertical instead of horizontal.
That'd be nice to see in real life. Oh wow. No, so it's also, I'm trying to understand the graphic even more now with all of these different contexts, because now it's it got this second meaning, all of it, and that's a beautiful thing to look at. What is sometimes missing, yeah. We discussed this in the previous talks, and one of the kind of problems that we got was this. How to say that we don't talk enough about the projects, that the authors don't have enough space to talk about this, especially the winners, first thing, but also the second places and third places especially. And as we all know that sometimes the competitions, the entries might be really interesting as well, all of them. But I know there is another factor that doesn't let's say persuade the jury to choose this, but this is, I think, well deserved in this case. And I think you partially answered kind of the questions, but I would like to talk a little bit more about the kind of the process of visualization of this, because you got all of these elements coming starting from the first point, which was, as you said, the Brunelleschi, so the historical elements, and then you get into more seeds, how it was called, sorry, seed dispersion mechanism. I like the name. And how did you come up with the graphic expression of this?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a bit about that. So similar to our material choice, we knew right off the bat that a hyper realistic render likely would not speak to the program in the way that we wanted. So we chose pretty much, we were all on the same page about doing a stylized render instead. And yeah, in terms of the programs and stuff used for both of these images, we actually what we did was we rendered we rendered just the towers and the balloons in V-Ray, and we matched the perspective to these views, which we had this view that we had taken, and this view, I believe we might have modeled the buildings as well. And then just on top of that, everything else is Photoshop. So in both of these images, like yeah, just very stylized, and we wanted to stay away as much as possible from this idea of hyperrealism. In my opinion, stylized renders are always better at conveying the sense of a space. You know, hyperrealism is fantastic for selling an existing building, you know, selling a product, so to speak. But if you're trying to show the or convey the sense of space that you're trying to give off, stylized is generally the way to go, in my opinion.
May I ask you? Oh, sorry.
Go on. Yeah.
The white elements are inspired by the, let's say, marble details you can find in Rome or something like this, or it's just a way to balance the whole amount of color.
Yeah, so I think Tim touched on this, but we almost wanted our buildings to be somewhat of a neutral aspect to Rome. So we didn't necessarily want to have, you know, this grandiose marble structure, or like, even though that would speak to the urban fabric of Rome, we kind of wanted these to be neutral placements, so to speak. And although and wood was what we kind of finally settled on as this material that would speak to the antiquity of Rome, while also, you know, remaining neutral in that sense. It also, like, by using wood, you kind of give the attention to the balloons instead, and, you know, the seed dispersion mechanisms, and yeah, you give the attention to the part of the program that that deserves it, you know, rather than the buildings. The buildings are important, or the towers, they are important to the program, but the main idea of this program is to actually you know, disperse seeds throughout Rome, and to the idea bring vegetation back. And so we almost wanted an onlooker, so to speak, to not notice the building, obviously, but we would want an onlooker to focus more on the balloons than they would the actual building. And yeah, wood was what we came up with for that.
All right, thank you.
I think the tones and kind of the graphical expression and the tones adjustments and this makes it what we've just said. So that's amazing. And recently I'm interested personally of the decision that we change about the designs while we produce the graphic. I don't know if you got the feeling sometimes that okay, it doesn't look good on the image, so I'm planning to change it in the design itself. Have you ever had situation like this? Maybe
we have. Tim and I have had that situation. I don't know about John. In our studios a lot of the time, and I think it's subjective whether or not you do that. I've personally, I know like our studio is pretty much split 50-50 in terms of people who believe visualization is the key aspect, and or details are the key aspect. And for this project, considering this is an ideas project, I think to sell, especially in a competition like this, it does make sense to, if something doesn't look good, maybe go back and tweak the design a little bit. I think you also need to maintain the vision that you have for the project. So if something is gonna, if something doesn't look good, and by changing it, you're gonna drastically change the vision or the program or whatever you want for this project, I would say that's probably, like, you should probably avoid that. But yeah, I'm not sure if Tim or John has an opinion on that, but
yeah, I would say as long as you're maintaining the vision or the actual brand or the idea that you're trying to sell, like maybe making the tower a meter shorter than it realistically would be so that you could see the rise behind it or something to help with a slight aesthetic cue. I think that often those trade-offs are usually warranted because at the end of the day, to sell the idea usually is more important than perfectly articulating it. But yeah, I guess that's what we found so far in our studios, especially.
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting question though, because that's something like Tim and I face in our like business as well, in our firm. Yeah.
Yeah.
and you, Jonathan,
Sometimes it feels like
agree?
you're almost, it's an integrity. Yeah, a question of integrity. And if you want to maintain a perfect representation of the project or a better representation of the project.
Yeah, especially for visual, it's almost better to try and get that aspect or just that touch where everything looks better, even though like realistically, like that's not gonna work, where you can fix that off. If in plans, like when you're actually doing like the construction, like just for visual sake, it's often a little bit better to warp it if you have to, because it's just getting an image from a computer sometimes looks a little wrong, too. So it just helps a lot for that.
No, I totally agree. And there was actually in the opposite side that they tried to present in a nice way, but it came up really badly. And we get the case in Poland, in my country. I know it was 10 years ago. I think that was a skyscraper of Daniel Libeskind. And they did, this beautiful render, and they won the competition and things like this. That was the second highest building in Poland at that time. Now Norman Foster exceeded this a few weeks ago. But yeah, they presented beautiful render, and then the building itself, everyone is just putting a cross on the way while walking next to it, because the graphical expression was overestimated, let's say, and the project itself didn't look as it was supposed to, unfortunately. I encourage to check Daniel Libeskind's Warsaw. I think you will just find straight away. So no, I'm happy to hear that you got this opinion as well about this. And yeah, coming back to Rome, a little bit, I think, and the main topic of the competition, which was this nature, renature. I just wanted to ask you the questions that you asked, because we know that this topic, generally nature, renaturing, is covered everywhere, in every city, in every neighborhood, or every street, all the time. So, what was the question that you asked? Maybe that was just okay, how to be different, or maybe you just based something on the function or the needs that was over there.
Yeah. Do you guys? I can kind of speak to that a little bit, but
Sure, yeah, you could go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Like again, kind of going back to just our education. Me personally, and I think Tim and John are on the same page, but we find that a lot of these renature projects that actually come to fruition in Canada are kind of like a single building, a single intervention, a single and like anything like that. And we like personally, I think that it's almost like we've built up this environment around us so far that it's almost impossible to renature the cities that we inhabit through an intervention, through a single intervention, or through a single you know through a single anything. It's almost like you need a citywide approach, and you need to you need to approach it on an urban scale rather than a design-based approach on a single building, so to speak. And so I guess, the question we asked is just how can we, assuming that this single building, single intervention approach does not work, what is the alternative? And again, that kind of speaks into how we approach this in terms of a modular approach. Just approaching it on an urban scale rather than a building or a building scale.
Anything to add, guys?
For me, the question of this project in general was, how do you do this almost contemporary nature intervention in a city like Rome, where often like the idea of these contemporary ideas and Rome like sometimes go like that. So figuring out a format where you can introduce nature while also adhering to what Rome is all about, I think that was sort of the juxtaposition we were trying to explore.
And I think juxtaposition over here was also that you didn't use green, and that was surprising.
Yeah. We were just browsing projects, seeing the green roofs on every intervention. It started to get a little tropey.
So I just looked, at the previous entries, and as well green, and that was poof. Okay, let's put orange.
Sorry.
You decided to use a subtle way, and you've introduced like the wood as a green element. So I think that's another thing to go for, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking to like that green roof comment as well, like that's kind of what we, at least what I meant in terms of these singular interventions often get it wrong, and their attempt to renature Rome their attempt to renature the cities that they inhabit, like they're oftentimes focused on
green roof.
Yeah, like green roof, but new builds, and I don't know. I guess we just kind of approached it in a sense where we were asking how can something affect an entire city rather than just a singular, or how can an intervention affect an entire city rather than a singular building.
And also, like, how can this intervention not like interrupt like the flow of the city as well, especially like going like looking at the skyline or like just the path of people. And the path of movement was a big one too.
No, I think that actually might be quite interesting approach generally to design nature. Not to think about this green, but actually to think about it in more abstract way. Maybe it may help in the future. I don't know. Have you used kind of the similar method in another of your drawings? Maybe. that you didn't put greenery in green?
We haven't really, well, in terms of Tim and I, we haven't had an opportunity to, but I think just in terms of like, environmental based projects, yeah, but I think that could speak to, the stylized vision, so to speak, of visualization. And we try to, unfortunately, the firms that we work with right now, it's mostly hyper realistic, and that makes sense because that, like, obviously a hyper realistic image is gonna save time, money for the architect, and it's also gonna sell the project better. So a lot of the times we are we're kind of forced to do it that way. But in terms of stylization, I think it's always it's always kind of better to be a little bit abstract with it.
So, what in your opinion you think after this competition? What is the future in terms of how we gonna develop the nature? In your opinion, just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts?
You want to go ahead? I feel like I so much.
I'm a bit of like a nihilist about it, where the moment we have control over some kind of environment, then the idea of nature almost goes out the window. Like these contemporary ideas around like maintaining nature, keeping it as it is already kind of an oxymoron, because just the idea of to not even go in and make an intervention is in itself already a decision. It's almost like people who are like non-political, like that in itself is a position. So I think we honestly just need to ask ourselves what we think is nature, what it should be. And I think that's sort of an idea that's going to be developed quite a bit. Like we started with these crazy English schools where lawns and stuff was sort of the new wave. And there's always these constant just paradigm shifts of how we even approach nature, from being this dangerous thing to being this national park experiential thing for the public. So I think it's just going to be another paradigm shift of how we approach the idea of what it even is and what our role in it will be. Especially with like new planets like Mars potentially. I think that's going to be a whole new conversation that we'll have to go over.
And the closest approach that you would kind of, I don't know how to say it, the closest approach that you can relate to in terms of nature? I know, Jonathan.
It would probably be, like a minimal,
Like
as
a
leave it
steward.
alone as much as possible. Be a steward, yeah.
That'd be the proper role to place.
Yeah, I guess that's the view I align myself with most right now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the steward role. It's like coming from like out west, like we have a giant beetle problem. So like you have to intervene to protect what's there for nature, but it's also sometimes you should let the old die and let new grow, especially with like single monoculture forests like we have out here, where it's a lot of pine beetles or pine trees. So like there's a big question in that. It's like, do you intervene and try and change how the course is going, or do you let this new growth develop and grow that's more resilient or different to what was there before? So like that's also a big question going on too.
To evolve, yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's to involve. It's for us to get ourselves involved, or to let nature do its course, which then it's like, what is nature at this point if we touch it?
And if you had to define nature in one sentence?
Oh, I think we have many different definitions of nature.
In your approach, in terms of let's say architecture, let's narrow it down.
Tim Bennett.
I would say anything that's not made by humans.
Anything untouched by humans would be your nature, I guess.
I mean, I think the actual definition is so skewed, but if I like defining nature in one sentence, honestly, maybe anything without human intervention. And I think that's why it's so hard to define it, because I don't know that a place exists on the planet anymore that is without human intervention. Way, yeah. So it's tricky.
Yeah, it's like humans have almost explored, like a large percentage of the planet already. So it's like, is
Even
anything actually? Yeah, it's a big planet, but like people go everywhere. You can't control that.
Ocean, guys. I think.
exactly.
Yeah, the deepest part of the oceans are still
80%
nature.
of the ocean is still unexplored, they say,
Mhm.
but it's
That's
already polluted. So.
this is crazy number. Like I never cannot believe it.
Well,
think-
it's unexplored, but they
But
found they found a plastic bag at the bottom
Yeah.
of
Already
the
polluted.
Marianas Trench. So it's I guess that's kind of what we mean by intervention. Human intervention, in a sense, is almost unavoidable now. So I think it's almost like the old definition of nature needs to change because it almost doesn't exist anymore. It's
Yeah.
we almost need to redefine.
1700s definition.
Yeah, like we almost need to redefine what nature actually means in the like
Right.
in today.
The same
Getting
with
back to
sustainable
something-
term.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to go on and I'll just go on.
No, the same with sustainable term. Yeah, that I found the earliest definition, the first use of sustainable that I found was in 1903. Sustainable by some guy like a Russian guy in some book, and we still use the same method, the same ideas, to meet the needs of our future generations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. That's really crazy.
Mhm.
Irina, sorry for
Yeah,
interrupting.
I just wanted to ask you guys, getting back to the competition, what did you, let's say, specifically learned by joining this competition, like in the end, as a conclusion? So, each of you, what is the main thing you've learned from renaturing the Rome, and from just taking part of it, all of it?
Yeah. On a practical level, I think it was like it was a fantastic just exploration into stylized images, and I think this was one of our first projects where we were able to stylize everything. So it was just on a practical level, it was a really fantastic just exploration into that.
And on the imagination level, let's say.
Yes. I think kind of what we just talked about. It was
Yeah.
it was like it was a really good exercise for us, and just in terms of asking what is nature. It kind of got us thinking about, and it was also culminating with a lot of the education that we were receiving at the time.
That's
Definitely
just
got us thinking about nature in a completely different way, and we definitely learned a lot just about environmentalism and how to apply that to future projects as well.
that's great. Would you like to add anything, guys?
Jonathan,
For me, I think one of the really cool things was just exploring, like taking an idea and before taking that shortcut into making it one building was to explore as many other avenues as possible, which is where we kind of landed on this multiple outpost thing. So I think that's something I'll definitely take with me going forward is flesh out the idea and don't always assume that it will manifest itself in like traditional architecture. Like leave other pathways open. That was really interesting. So that's definitely one of the biggest things I learned from this one.
Nice. Added
and you,
bits.
John?
I think Tim and Bennett kind of covered most of it, but yeah, just like really like testing the extremes of everything, but then to like maybe pull yourself back, analyze things, and see what other approaches you can take towards ideas, as well as like something that like it's a really good idea to pull through, especially like different ways you can interpretate things.
That's great.
Thank you, guys. You just provided us, the perfect summaries of the event itself and something that we can use honestly to promote this talk, because that was wonderful. Honestly, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much
Oh
for
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for the invitation. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, this is fun.
It was cool to revisit this because it has been a while. I think it's coming up on 2 years now, and yeah, we were kind
Yeah.
of. It was fun to
come back to.
come back to even come back to what we learned about it. We were looking at our notes on the project, and it was nice because like working in the field for long enough, you almost kind of uh, forget the stuff that you actually put into your studio projects and or competitions. And yeah, so it was nice to kind of revisit all that. It's gonna definitely change how we approach projects, in the future.
Yeah.
This was a really
Guys,
cool
would you
idea and format.
Would you like to send your notes or something that you got from the projects maybe to us? Maybe we could use it somehow.
Honestly, sure, we could the Rachel Carson notes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Maybe some sketches you got over there that'd be wonderful, and the text as well. That'd be nice to see the exploration.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I believe the sketches are in a notebook that I no longer have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think
just
they're on
because it
Discord.
was long ago. They might be actually. Yeah,
They're on Discord.
actually,
Post them all
we'll
up on here.
yeah.
Yeah. We can take a gander.
Keep all of your sketches, guys. Guys, you never know when it's gonna be needed. Yeah, Norman
Yeah.
Foster got every sketch of his, that he's collecting. That's why he got this Norman Foster Foundation, because he needed a place to store all of his drawings. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So keep it. You never know. Okay. Thank you, guys. It was a great pleasure, and hope to talk to you soon, really in the future.
Thank
Let's
you
keep
so
in
much.
touch.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a nice evening.
And
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
thank you everyone else for joining.
Thank you.
So we don't get any questions to ask?
Oh, no, we put the message. Sorry, we put the message in the chat.
Oh, there was a message thing? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, man.
My bad.
But
Okay.
if you want, we can provide you the Instagram, their Instagram account, so maybe you can message them or emails.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They also shared in the messages their site of their firm, so you can definitely check that. And yeah, please don't.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen it now.
Sorry, we forgot to mention as well. But maybe would you like to provide your email so we can send you all of the details?
No, it was like a conversation thing. Like I was gonna ask, do you guys have time? Maybe I can ask you just a bit. So because
Of course.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
So this competition was a conversation between nature and human. Yeah. And well, their part of the conversation was, hey, we have these balloons that give away seed, and which is all right. I put that aside. But once we leave that aside, we have a structure that is created solely for human climbing. And I was gonna ask, once that seed part is gone, that how is that structure gets into the conversation with nature? Because it's made for humans, and there's nowhere a wildlife to live in. So that was like. Yeah.
I think Jonathan was mentioning a little bit about this topic because their idea, if I'm not wrong, I'm so sorry that we misunderstood. But if I'm not wrong, the guys were talking about how the building is gonna grow older. Let's say how it's gonna be slowly. Was the word?
Wildlife?
Deteriorate or something like this. It's gonna become more of a nature, as you know, when the building is getting wet, for example, things like this. It's gonna overgrow no matter what. So I think that was the idea, that it's step by step, it may grow older in this case.
Yeah, and it was a subtle way to approach the natural elements and to introduce them in a city where you literally, the concrete was invented, the Roman concrete.
Yeah.
It was a sort of a respect to that bit of
Using wood as like a appreciation of like, hey, concrete, you're there, but we are gonna have a more chill and
yes.
yeah.
To be just be a part of a context, yeah. So not to be a
Yeah.
landmark or monument or anything like this.